their record, such that when we get people, then we know that for sure this person, well, they are not infallible per se, but at the very minimum, they have a clean record. Not so many, not any skeleton worth our attention in their closet. Otherwise, we will be changing the forest, the monkeys, the same monkeys in the same forest, and nothing much will change. So I have to be cautiously optimistic, especially given that we've seen a particular wave moving towards Wamunyora, and do not underestimate it. You and I and most of us here can choose to be idealistic in our thinking about how the nation needs to go. But the average person who gets their news, consumes their news from the radio, they listen to who is more powerful and who has more influence, not who is likely to bring any change. With that, I want to land. Thank you.
Thank you, Chacha. I just have a quick question. You talked about the 12 million Kenyans without ID who are being permanently locked out of a democratic process. Do you think we should be pushing for a nationwide emergency registration drive, or what is the way forward?
So I think this is a question that we have to ask. What does the charter, the customer, is it called the service charter of the registrar of persons say, the registry, because this is a function that should be undertaken ideally by the national registration. So they have not been issued with the ID to start with. So before you get a voter's card, you need to have an ID. Let's first push for IDs to be distributed to the people who have already, to be issued to the people who have already applied for it. Because when I say this, I know what I'm speaking about. An ID ideally should take at most 2 months. I mean, it's 6 months, somebody has not received the ID. This is not somebody who lives at the border counties, for example. I come from Kuria, for example. So you can say maybe because you come from Kuria, maybe that's where they have to confirm that this person is not a Tanzanian, it's Kenyan. So I think there is it's a game they're playing with, and it's working for them in the near term. But I think we need to have more people voice this about national identification cards being issued to Kenyans who have attained the age, the legal age that they should be issued with one. So that's a huge problem here. And then we can now mobilize the next stage, which is now have these people register as voters, especially be registered as a voter at a place where you're likely to vote. So if, for example, you're in Nairobi and you come from, let's say, Makueni County, and you suspect on that particular day you're likely to be in Nairobi, I'll still encourage you to, I'll still encourage you to actually register as a voter in Nairobi where you're likely to vote. So that we don't want to say that we didn't get people going to vote in the rural areas who are registered there. So the first agenda should be push for government to issue people, Kenyans who have attained the legal age to get national identification card. And then we can now move to the next hurdle, which is now mobilizing them to register as voters.
Thank you. But I'm really still wondering, are we seeing a deliberate demographic targeting in ID delays, especially in opposition stronghold or strongholds that don't support the and marginalized?
So I don't have insights. I don't have insights on which places, which regions are receiving IDs more. But I think the young people are being, they're being sort of disadvantaged. So that if, say, for example, you get your ID when the registration process or as a voter is over, technically you're locked out of that electoral process. So it's disenfranchising these Kenyans who need to participate in this democratic process. So I will not speak to the nuances and the granular details of it, but I think there is a deliberate effort, especially at the administration level, to not expedite the process of Kenyans getting the national identification process, ID cards.
All right. Thank you so much, Chacha, for that. As we move forward, I see you, Grace, then Western, and then Charlo. I'm sorry, man. Grace, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, Hillary. How are you?
Good.
I'm also fine. I say hi to everyone. And I just had some few things to say about the State of the Nation and the IEBC. I feel the IEBC, the mode of even appointing the people to present the next election is hilarious. And I think the government should put more effort on at least talking to the public and seeking the public's opinion. And also, I think before we go to the next elections, we should have reforms of that elections. Because to be honest, I know that people who have joined these positions are afraid. They fear for their lives after what we saw, what Chris Mhando went through, plus other IEBC officials that have been killed in cold blood because of elections. So I think the reforms should be formed in a way that the IEBC appointees should have independent minds when it comes to announcement of results. And I think anybody's life should not be threatened because of a job. So I think these are the some of things we have not talked about. And if we see now the politicians speak, you can be able to realize that they have their own agendas and they feel that they're untouchable. And again, they are strongly sure of their win. Because if you can see a leader publicly saying that IEBC does not determine elections in this country, then it leaves you worried as a citizen. Does it mean that Kenya is not a democratic country? What we are supposed to be looking at are these leaders speaking for Kenyans as a whole, or they're speaking for themselves? So I think a lot has to be done in terms of IEBC reforms and also in terms of public participation. People should be involved. And lastly, I think transparency when it comes to appointing these people. And these people who are appointed, they should be protected in a way that nothing should be happening to them thereafter because of the decisions that they have made. Coming to the reforms, I think I said this sometimes back and I still repeat. I think Kenya is in a position to develop technological systems to curb election theft, which also IEBC, I don't see, and I don't think after even the last public participation that I was in, they are willing to. Because if we can have apps like like M-Pesa apps, where people can send money within seconds and billions of shillings, I think Kenya, we have a capacity to develop and improve our electoral systems technically to curb election fraud. So lastly, I think we youth, so many of us, as we are in this course of maybe correcting the government and also looking at our future and how we can improve politics of this country. We are not focusing on registering ourselves as voters. And I think registration is ongoing. When you go to any IEBC office, you'll be able to register as a voter. What happens is that people wait for the last minute. Now they want to register, and it's stressful sometimes because everybody is looking at that particular time. But all of us, if we can work on going there, registering as early as now, I think it can be better for our nation and as a country. Another thing I wanted to talk about was the IDs. I think a reform should also be made in that so long as you have an ID, you should be able to vote even without registering as a voter. I think that is the first process of rigging elections, because if you are not allowed to vote and you have an ID just because you did not register with IEBC, I think it's unfair, and proper method should be put into place to protect people and to protect interest of the people. As Kenya, we believe in democracy, and that is what we have to fight for. Thank you, Hilary. Let me listen to other people speak as well. Thank you.
Hilary, are you still there?
Wow. Abdi, you okay? All right, thank you. Sorry, guys, for that. I think I thought Abdi is here, and there was a call I was receiving, but I'm sorry. Western, you dropped. You can come back. Snoopy, I see you. Thank you so much. Dr. Milton, I see you. I think there was a problem with that. Grace, thank you for that. Uh-huh. Who was coming next? Who was coming next? Ronyo. Ronyo, go ahead. Ronyo, are you here? Can you hear me?
Hey Hilary, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, thank you, thank you. I was trying to unmute this my mic here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hilary, Maura, Abdi, and everybody else who is listening. Uh, I mean, speaking the state of nation is it's always it always makes me happy when you are gathered here to speak about our country, because it shows that we love our country, though we are told we are not patriots. But I need us to think in a different way, because we are in a country where, and as we're speaking about IEBC, we are in a situation, or in a country, or in this day and age, where we are competing with other very developed countries, and we are still speaking about IBC, and probably we will see when that day comes, the Kim's kits will not be working. We are still having to deal with a very old technology, and we are in an era of AI. Hillary, right now, you look at everybody wants to be influencer, but you realize, right? We are having AI, and we are having we are having virtual influencers right now that are going to that are going in very few years are going to that are even doing better than the influencers that we have currently. And we have a country like Japan, that some people right now are dating people that they don't know, that people that don't even exist. That is the age, that is the era that we are in, and I'm sure even if our great grandparents will wake up right now, they will choose to go back to the grave, because the world has totally changed. But in Africa, we've refused, and in particular Kenya, we have refused to move on. We have refused even in where we choose our leaders, in where we do our things. And right now, the discussion is, if you don't want Ruto, if you don't want Matiang'i, if you don't want Maraga, you don't want this and that, who do you want? And then my question is, we are 60 million of us today, or even the day of election. We might decide Abdi will become our president. What will stop that? Because people should not push. We should not push us that you have to choose. You have to show us your direction. We are 60 million of us. We are still having a conversation so that we can find that leader who has integrity. Because Abdi have asked a good question here. Does education count? It doesn't. We have people who have PhDs on and all those things, and all those huge titles from good from reputable universities, from the universities that are considered to be heaven and earth. But when they are given that job, they don't do anything. So it is not about education, it's about integrity. And we should be allowed to have a conversation and choose our leader based on integrity. Listen to people like Maraga came here. He spoke of, yes, you'll hear him saying he was being vulnerable. He was saying, I'm actually struggling with this thing of technology, and I'm having young people here who are supporting us. That is the kind of leader who is at least we could give that's a tick. That's a leader who is telling us, yes, I don't know this area, but I'm willing to allow people who knows how this thing works to take over. But we are dealing with people who are very arrogant, who thinks that they have the monopoly of knowledge and wisdom. They know everything, that they are not even allowing the people who are probably are expert in that area to do anything. That's where our country is struggling. You're asking if you ask the president what is the blueprint of our country, and they will tell you we are exporting labor. That is what we are working so hard to educate people, and we export labor. The countries that we are exporting labor to, they don't need labor now. We have AIs and these machines that are operating. They don't need anybody to lift heavy weights and all that. They already figure out that. They right now, most of them, like Japan, they want people to impregnate their women, and probably in a few years to come, they will not need that again. They will have figure out how to to have babies without without the traditional way of having babies. And we should be a country that is focusing with the future. You've heard this guy from the guy who is in charge of Fed in the US saying Africa 2060 we will have close to 3 point something billion people. All that people, and unless Africa thinks of how they can come together or how they can forge their future in terms of technology, so that they can have technology sovereignty, they will be left behind. They will still be struggling and thinking of how these other people will come to save them. You always hear people when there is a conflict, they will say international community. We are talking to international community to come and save us. You'll hear that talk. And those are heads of states who are saying that they are calling for international community. They are calling for Russia, China, US to come and save us. And it's our own problem that we make, and we cannot solve that. And you see, it didn't take Burkina Faso forever for them to just for one guy say no, we need change, and we need a drastic change, because it just takes one person to say no, we need a change in this country, and that's what it takes, and that person will bring change. Because a country like there's this guy who is in charge of a very big company, Amazon, which employs close to 700,000 people. The size of the size of the employees that the Kenyan government has. One company is doing that, and that guy was asked, Jeff Bezos was asked, what makes you a good CEO? And he says, I don't have to be there for the whole day. I just wake up, go there for 4 hours, make few decisions, and I go on, because I break down this company into a small company where I just meet with the directors of different departments, give them orders, listen to them, and allow them be. And that's how the company is growing. But we have a country that has so many CSS, PSS, so many advisors. I don't know how many advisors, almost 60 advisors, and we're still adding advisors, but nothing is working, because people are micromanaging the country. They don't allow people who are expert in certain areas to thrive. Like if we have somebody who can just be using their I mean, who are intentional and who has integrity and who has the country I mean, who has the interest of the country at heart, we will have a different country. And you see, the guy who came from Vietnam, he just came one day in the country, just one day, and he diagnosed the problem of the country. And he said, Kenya does not have a problem of money. It doesn't have the problem of resources. It is the problem with leadership. We are busy building roads and infrastructure from one area to another, but we don't have we only producing 4 gigawatts, and we have 60 million people, and the economy that has their country that has 100 million people is producing 70 gigawatts of power that they have enough to export outside. And so every investor will look at such things when they are coming to build an industry. You cannot build an industry where the electricity or the energy, the electricity is flip-flopping every other time. There is a power outage. Who will build a good hospital? Who will build a good industry? Yes, you have good roads, but you don't have anything to transport or to use those roads for. So that is the problem we are facing, and we don't want to discuss that. We just want to discuss who will become what, who will be appointed. Oh, you come from this region. What are you? And that's what people are gathering. They are coming together to. You find people who are saying, we are from Mount Kenya. Let's consolidate our area so that we can have a bargaining power. We are from Nyanza. We are from this other region. Let's consolidate ourselves. Let's come together as this region so that we can be able to get position in government. So you get this position to do what? The problems that they're having as a country, it is affecting everybody, irrespective of where you come from. Where you come from, Northeastern, you come from Nyanza, you come from Mumbai. It doesn't matter where you come from. If the education system is not working, it is affecting everybody. If the health system is not working, it's affecting everybody. So it doesn't matter where you are coming from. As long as you live within the areas of that country in Kenya, it will affect you. And as long as unless we come together, irrespective of which language you talk, irrespective of your last name, yes, as long as as long as we are not coming together and saying, come on guys, we need to fix this problem and we need to agree as one. We don't have to look at what the other person speaks, or maybe whether they speak good language, or whether they are fluent or anything. They are fluent with this foreign language. As long as this person has an integrity, as long as this person can do a good job, let's try him, let's allow that person to lead. Let's not have, you look at right now, they have appointed so many this so many Kina Morara and Kina Peter Salazia, who the guy just got elected at Jamalisa one term, and now he says, I want to be a president. What kind of a country do we live in? You've not shown what you're supposed to do. Like unaingia class 1 and again unaenda unaambia principal, no, I just want to, mimi nataka kwenda class 8, or I want to go to form 4, I want to go to the university. Now you just joined. You have to show what you can do before people think of elevating you to another level. So that we need to have a candid conversation na watu wastahili kutukimbisha. Thank you so much, Hilary.
Asante sana Roger. I really appreciate. Abdi, as you come in, Dr. Mofo, how are you doing today? I know I see Mwawara is here, right, and Dr. Kimani. Go ahead, Mofo.
Thank you, Hilary. Hilary, let me begin by commending you for holding a very good space last weekend. Well attended, and virtually everybody had a chance to speak. I mean, I think you set a precedence that needs to go out there. Rarely do you get that kind of moderation. Thank you very much for that. In fact, you did very well. Besides that, the discussion of the IEBC, perhaps the most important thing in Kenyan politics, we need to ask ourselves, how important is the IEBC, and does it really matter in terms of the commission membership? In an ideal situation where the independence of the constitutional institution is president over political influence, yes, it does not matter. Unfortunately, in Kenya, we have a case where he that pays the piper must call the tune. And this is the situation because the contest for the constitution of the IEBC begins from the selection of the recruitment panel. You need to have somebody who is favorable to you so that you are able to sneak through a commissioner of your choice. And ultimately, once you've been selected through such a biased process, you know you've got some favors to return, and you're paid for. We have the history that I have perpetually reiterated we shouldn't lose track of. Hillary, in the year 2007, was it 2007, when we had the nullification of the election, Chebukati led a highly divided commission. So much so that when they delivered the first round of the elections and it was nullified, the opposition pulled out from subsequent participation. And further, in order to rock the boat and make it impossible for an election to happen, what happened? We had resignation of the members of the commission who are affiliated to the opposition. A case in point, we had a commissioner resign midway in the air and said she cannot participate. And she even caused too much clamor when she said that Chebukati himself was a man under siege and he was not able to deliver the elections. But because Chebukati had his affiliation and allegiance elsewhere, he decided to continue with the cause. Recently, in the year 2022, we had a clear division of the commission because some of this division could be well guided. It could be based on merit, on basis of clear conflict of interest within the IEBC, because the IEBC in Kenya does not operate independently. It has been infringed. It has been influenced politically by people who've got interests. And the story is not about to change. Not anytime soon, especially when we see the current constitution where we've said people are affiliated to others either by way of nepotism or tribalism. And so yes, it's a big debate that we continue holding. It also becomes a problem, especially when we say, fine, the word of the IEBC is not really final until you have contested and the Supreme Court has adjudicated on the matter. But again, we have a Supreme Court that has got limited time to deliberate and adjudicate. So that's how we also find out that the Parliament has never extended the period for deliberation and decisions of the Supreme Court. Again, making the hands of the Supreme Court tied not to open its eyes and scrutinize further. I give you a case in I give you a case in point, a point when happened last time. Last time what happened is the opposition went to the court and they raised questions on certain polling stations, which was meant to be an eye opener to the court that glaringly the elections have been compromised. But you know what happened? Nothing was found there. Do you know why? It is because some of you do not know what happened. The opposition did not have proper fielding of its agents in those areas. And if you remember, the areas were contested were largely in Mount Kenya. So what happened? They relied on masqueraders, people who masqueraded to be sympathizers of the opposition and tell them, you know what? We were there, we have facts, it was compromised, there was stuffing of the ballot boxes on these particular areas. Just to send them on a wild goose chasing. Ultimately, that's how they were caught out. But what I'm saying is, if we have an extended period for determination of the case by the Supreme Court, okay, perhaps we could say we want to do sampling, random sampling. We want so much of the ballot boxes open within this area across the country, and they would have had a chance to get something. That's it and done. I just want to wind up on that as far as the IEBC is concerned. Perhaps the other things I need to refer to is what is happening currently. Hillary. I'm looking at the ruling on Gachagua's impeachment. For me, this is a deal breaker in Kenyan politics. It really precipitates a constitutional crisis because the question is Kindiki, legitimately in office? And also it offers him a reprieve in terms of political survival. And what do I mean by this? In a situation where he would have remained properly impeached, it limited chances of vying for political office. We know he is a political heavyweight. Of their negotiations, perhaps is something we need to see going forward in terms of how they realign themselves. I don't want to speak much. I just want to wind up with the funeral of Charles Were. Conspicuously, we saw some people like Orengo missing in the funeral. It is not by coincidence. And I think also looking at some of the conversations that were held there with Raila Odinga, protecting Sifuna. Again, I think we are at a point where we are about to see maybe ODM bolting out of these kind of arrangement. And the reason is because it is important for ODM to remain relevant in Kenyan politics, and not so much so if they continue affiliating themselves with the government. And clearly, this is a government whose situation cannot be salvaged. So we are about to see a time when perhaps Raila Odinga will be saying, we try to help this man to revive the economy, but he cannot be helped. And perhaps that will be a way of them pulling out. If that happens, well, another different games in terms of politics. But if it doesn't happen, perhaps I would draw a challenge to the Kenyans from the Luo Nyanza. Please try looking at Orengo as a person who could be, the alternative voice that will resonate with the Kenyans. Thank you very much. Have a good week.
Thank you. That was really a good recap of the week, actually. I like it. So, but I just want to follow up on one aspect that I think we must revisit the minor KI ruling, which was very clear. Results announced at the constituent levels are final, and the IEBC chair is purely administrative, not authoritative. I think. Yet every election cycle, we still witness power being centralized at Bomas, creating a room for manipulation and chaos. So my question to you is this ruling? Why is this ruling not fully implemented in practice, and what mechanisms should be put in place to ensure 2027 the IEBC chair cannot override the constituency results again?
Do you want me to respond, or is it a question?
Yes, please. Go ahead, because you brought. I'm giving you 2 minutes to respond, and I want to hear your view on that.
Thank you, Abdi. Yes, that should be the situation. The vote you cast at the ballot at the polling station is final. It should be counted as such. Unfortunately, if you look at some of the submissions, the conversations that have been made by the IEBC CEO, it clearly tells you the whole system is compromised. He's given several ways in which rigging, in his own words, he has seen happening, including manipulation of the electoral body management, and most especially the digital manipulation. Therefore, much as that is what the situation is, and even the political players know that the ruling holds, what is announced at the polling station is final. But by the time it is announced, the political players have had their chance to manipulate what is given out. That's why, for example, you see there's a lot of alteration, for example, in the Form 34A. Why does it happen? So by the time it is altered and it is submitted to the IEBC and the IEBC announces, for it to be reversed, it can only be reversed by the court, the Supreme Court. But what I'm saying is the Supreme Court has intentionally been denied sufficient time to scrutinize. And therefore, it hurriedly makes decision based on, because they must beat a certain timeline. And so, yes, it has to be final. And for it to be authentically final, if you challenge, sufficient time needs to be given to the Supreme Court to scrutinize and be able to give a proper verdict. Thank you.
Thank you. Hillary, who was next? I think Western.
Western dropped. I see he's dropped. So bring Mawara and Chalo and Dr. Kimani.
Okay, and then we can have Anthony. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Asante Hirari and everybody in the panel. Mine, I just want to focus on two things. Number one, I want to talk about the average voter in Kenya and his problem. You see, I don't know how many average voters in Kenya sit down and compare a profile of the person they are going to vote for into office, starting from MCA all the way to the head of state. Wachache sana ambao wanafanya hivyo. Now, what drives the average voter in Kenya is just emotions. Okay, huyu ndiye tunataka, huyu ndiye tumeambiwa. Just like that. That's all what drives an average Kenya. And for this country to change, we must change that. I'm not saying there's anybody who is an angel in Kenya. No. Kila mtu ana mapungufu yake. Everybody has got a shortcoming, including me and everybody in this panel. But what we should be doing as voters is just to have that profile. Let's say if Hillary robbed the vice for the president and two of them, then I should be able to have a profile of Abdi. I mean, what has he done? Has he been involved in scandal? Okay, and Hillary this and this and this. And then I compare and consult the two. Then yule ambaye the rest are evil, nampigia kura. Shetani mdogo, you give him the vote. And because number two, you look at who among these people you are doing profile, who are their friends, who are their associates. Because you see, how do you explain an area, whole region like Mount Kenya voting for yellow for you? How do you explain that? It means that those were robots. They are robots, and very sorry for using this word, because there's no way you can all vote for just the same party. No, there's something is wrong. So those people, you never draw a proper. Other regions will do the thing. So I think that's the first thing. We should educate the people, particularly those in the village. Ni nani huyu? Use even Swahili, ni nani huyu? Amefanya nini na nini? Right from the MCA kule chini all the way to the head of state. Number two, a major contributing factor the way people vote in Kenya is poverty. You see, let's be honest enough here. Do you know why people spend a lot of money to vie for these positions? It's because they have to give out handouts. You see, so you get somebody like now, let's say today. Me, I don't blame those people who are hired to go to rallies for Ruto and everything. I don't blame them at all, because there is somebody who can save in for a month, hajashika elfu moja, just 1,000 Kenya shillings. He hasn't. So if you give that somebody 3,000, why would that person go and start even dancing for Ruto? But deep inside the heart, anajua, this is not the right person. I think time has come for us as Kenyans to agree to pay the price. We vote for people of integrity and character, no matter who they are, and then we suffer a little bit, but they make the things right. What again? You just take that money, just score that money, but you, wewe mwenyewe unajua the candidate you are going to say. Somebody has talked about education. And listen, education doesn't matter. Ruto, the head of state, he claims to have a PhD. Whether he got it illegally or illegally, that's not the topic we are having here today. But Ruto, a PhD holder, is somebody who can go in front of people assembly. They sat down with a man who died in 2017 and they discussed that he will be buying his farm. Mtu alikufa 2017. Anasema ya kwamba tulikaa chini naye tukajadiliana vile nitanunua shamba yake. Think about that one. Ruto is still the same person who said gas itatoka from 2005 600 ikuje 600. And then when you question why hasn't it come down, asema nilisema ni mtungi. Kwani si gas ni ile kitu iko ndani. You see, and he's a PhD holder. You see, look at the people, look at somebody who really brought Kenya to its knees. The then Minister for Finance, Henry Rotich. Henry Rotich was educated at one of the most prestigious universities in this world, Harvard University. Angalia, hakuna waziri mwingine wa fedha aliyekopa pesa kama yeye, na zilikwenda wapi? Including the Eurobond. Yet this is somebody who went to Harvard University. So I support Tironyo by saying that we should look for integrity and character. As long as mtu anajua kusoma na kuandika, this kama if the role requires, fine, a governor for a degree, fine. Although for me, hiyo elimu nyingi, kizungu mingi, is not a prerequisite for being a leader. No, you can even be a leader, maybe even if you have just a diploma, you see, and you do perfect work. All what we need in Kenya is leaders of integrity and character. Number 3, we stop voting with our emotions. Because when you start using your emotions, you suspend the use of your brain. You see, unihisia sasa zinakuongoza. You no longer use your brain. You are just being led by your emotion. And anybody will tell you a lot of damage happen when you are using emotions. Just sit down. It's like I know myself, when you are using your emotion, it's like that river in my village in Gatoro, whereby sometimes the elephant will pass through na watakanyaga ile maji and itajaa udongo yote. So when you go there to draw that water, it's full of mud. So what do? You wait for 2 hours, the water will be clean. Now you can draw the water. So whenever you have emotions, just relax, take a glass of milk, drink, and then you'll be able to make the right decision. Let's behave like entrepreneurs or businessmen. You see, before a businessman can embark on a project, he sits down with his management team and everybody, wanachora ile proper ya ile mradi, the project they want to carry out, how we rate the bad thing and how well we sell the product. You do that, you have that proper. Anyway, everything comes with a risk. Even no matter how much good you see the project is, there is risk associated with it. There's no investment without a risk. So let's take our leaders like that. We are investing in them, but there's an element of risk. Finally, when I come to finish, somebody has said about and also I had Gachagua today saying about it that kura zihesabiwe katika ile kituo ya kupiga kura. Yes, that's clearly, and that was the main argument in the Maina Kiai and then Driada's case in 2017, that Article 138 sub-article 1 and 2 must be respected. Uchaguzi unafanyika katika jimbo. The election happens in every constituency. But what happens when things go like that? Somebody has said that in my area, Central Kenya, there was a lot of staffing. Do you know my voting station where Mutomo Primary School, where I also voted? Unajua route of one in that station. You can think about that. So there was a lot of staffing in a lot of places in Central Kenya. For they come, and before they arrest, you just compromise people because money is king in Kenya, and they reserve those ballots. There is something that the former IEBC was assassinated in 2017, Chris Musado had said, how I wish we can have an IEBC, an ICT boost there at IEBC, who can put a strategy like the one Chris Musado had put in place. He had said that no dead voter will be on my list of voters. You see, so Musando, what he had planned was that everybody, every vote, everyone who casts the vote will be a living human being and not starving or something like that. And actually, he paid the.
Can you land and then we get back to you? We cycle back to you. Can you land?
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Thank you. I with due respect, I will a little bit disagree with you on the idea of voting the lesser evil. It's not a strategy; it's a surrender. That's what I believe. But we can't recycle corruption, incompetence, impunity for decades. Kenya don't need managers of decay. We need leaders of integrity, people who serve not to survive off public office. Way forward for me, I think the real question is who is slightly less. It's not who is slightly less harmful. It's who aligns with our values we claim to believe in moving forward. We must rally behind leaders with clean record, grassroots connections, and vision rooted in justice and accountability. That's how we can build a new political culture, not by choosing evil in smaller doses, but by rejecting it completely. I think that is one part. The other part I agree with you is I echo you. You say that on the part that honestly, education grounded, how many PhD holding failures must we endure before we admit academic credentials aren't the solution? We need is moral clarity. Academic elitism is not the answer. We need public offices is a classroom. So we demand leadership padded on honest, and they're accountable, and they have delivered real service to the people. So having said that, thank you. I'll bring Westin Handis up, and then I'll give Dr. Milton to do his opening statement as a pressure point team. Thank you. Go ahead, Westin.
Thank you, Abdi and Hilary. Greetings to everyone. Abdi, before my interventions, I think we sound like William Ruto, but we are not aware of it. We do. For instance, when Chacha talks about having talked to somebody and accents the village as being responsible for this person's political views, Chacha assumes that people in Nairobi are more politically conscious than people are in the villages. That's elitism, and it's problematic. It's similar to Ruto saying, why are you protesting over the takeover of an airport and you've never stepped in an airport? You don't remember him saying that? That's elitism. Why would a president speak like that? Your role is to ensure that every other citizen gets to an airport. What does it mean? They can afford to fly and go wherever they're going. What explains that? The economy is growing and bettering their lives, but you're, ridiculing them. So it's not about a village. Makau Mutua is not a villager, is he? He's been in New York teaching in an Ivy League school. Does he think differently from William Ruto? He does not. He doesn't. He doesn't. If it was a question of a village, why has Nairobi County had this kind of governance from 2013 to date? Despicable people. And this is where the Kenyan cream de la cream, as it were, reside. So let's not pathologize people based on where they come from. But that's not how to read our politics. In fact, not only in Kenya, but across Africa, the people who are responsible for Africa's mayhem, post-colonial, are elite. They're elite. They're not villagers. Because they think they're more sophisticated than other natives who don't have titles, who don't travel, who don't speak French and English. I think it's important. And what explains this? I'll come to that later. Abdi, I think we have been very charitable to this member of parliament who was laid to rest on Friday. We've been very charitable, and it's surprising. This particular individual should have been in jail. Should have been in jail. If the things that came to the fore are anything to go by, he should have been in jail, not in parliament. Those who know him better, they accuse him of extreme violence against his constituents, extreme violence. People butchered, people maimed, a lot of bloodbath. Why are we not focusing on that? Why? And of course, a case of a woman who rather disappeared without trace while in his compound. Why hasn't he been held to account because of that? Why hasn't even that woman's name trended? Why? 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 Therefore, we look at it, the politician, what transpired during the funeral, but that individual was a goon. Some would even say was a murderer, those who knew better than I do. Secondly, you look at IEBC, I think it's continuity, because I didn't know these people. I looked at them later. Who are these people? Noor is a former provincial commissioner. Noor, the one of the nominees. And the provincial administration in Kenya is notorious for stifling the popular will. These are the individuals who used to rig elections during one-party state. These are individuals who have stolen a lot of land all over the country. The Kenyatta-era provincial commissioners stole a lot of land all over Kenya. And that's why we're talking about this land William Ruto is said to have bought in Narok, belonging to a former provincial commissioner. 5,800 acres. Where did you get that land? Let's even don't get into whether William Ruto is a mass. Where did one individual get that land? People are not living in that area before this person, happened on that scene. So we are even asking the wrong questions on issues of social justice. We're asking the wrong questions. It's not that William Ruto wants to amass this land. How did one individual, a former provincial commissioner, amass so much land in a rock? Doesn't that bother us? It should. And that's why, Abdi and Hillary, why elections will not resolve our problems, it's because democracy is more than elections and political parties. In Kenya, we think elections and political parties are pivotal to democracy. No. It's not a kind of a la carte kind of scenario. Other things integral to democracy are missing in Kenya. The rule of law is missing. Tolerance for alternative views, missing. Willingness to compromise, missing. Now, under what political milieu will elections be held? Under what political milieu? I want to hear. I hear a lot about IEBC, people voting, people registering, but under what political milieu? I want to be told. Because if we think that elections in and of themselves constitute democracy, we are spectacularly wrong. And we don't have to look far. We just have to look at Kenya itself, its history. And therefore, we don't have an alternative. It's not the least bad. We don't have an alternative. Abdi, Hillary, how do you identify an alternative? Voters identify alternatives when it comes to voting based on ideology. We don't have that. Where's the evidence? Look at both Kenya Kwanza and what was Azimio. Azimio, you can take Kaluma and then take Cheriot, Kericho Senator, Kenya Kwanza in government. Both have criticized Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. What does it tell you? The Kenyan political elite are reactionary. They hate progressive politicians and politics. They hate politicians who have people's interests and well-being across the board. If you want to know that we don't have alternatives, they think the same way. As far as what to do with this economy is concerned, none of them thinks that the state is the engine of growth and development and to rescue people from the clutches of poverty. None of them. They don't. They don't think like that. They think the state is an avenue to amass wealth, become extremely wealthy at the expense of poor people. And then you can pawn them to the highest bidder. And that's why Rigathi is still considered a viable person when it comes to our politics going forward. Why? We're bereft of ideological distinction across the political board. And that's why when you look forward to elections, you just picking, between individuals who are alike. And therefore you can't compare Rigathi to William Ruto. These are the same people. You can't compare Matiang'i to William Ruto. They're the same people. You can't compare things that look the same. You cannot. It's not possible. That's what we have in Kenya. You can't compare Kalonzo to William Ruto. They're the same people. How do you tell that they're the same people? It's not on walking, in terms of walking style or the shape of their heads or ethnicity. Look at the mind ideationally. How do they think about Kenya? Do they differ? They don't differ. They don't. They will tell you about I will fight corruption, rule of law. These are platitudes. We've heard these things before. But look, what is your overarching? Look at the US. Donald Trump's ideology of governance is MAGA, make America great again. You can disagree with him, you can agree with him, but he has got a framework through which he governs the United States of America. And he looks at the world. Do you have something like that? It may be faulty, it may be workable, but at least you can afford to think about governance from a particular ideational perspective. Nyerere had ujamaa in Tanzania, African socialism. You can agree with him, you can disagree with him, but he had an ideology of governance. How he wanted to govern Tanzania and the Tanzania that he wanted to bequeath posterity. He thought about it. What about us? So these characters who just came, constitutionalism, corruption, things that don't make sense. But they think they make sense because we have got massive problems. We do. So they get away with it. But questions about what is your reading about the state in Kenya? What is it? The Chinese Communist Party, they define themselves as people who preside over a developmental state. That's how they define themselves. When they came into power, in the next 50 years, we want China to be where exactly it is now. One of the foremost consequential states in the world. That is where they are. They thought about it. Deng Xiaoping, the thinker. Who do we have in Kenya? Who do we have? So these people reduce everything to elections and what have you. What do you mean? And that's why, look at Professor Udwal, one of the IEBC nominees. He ran down Technical University. He's the immediate vice chancellor. He is. And Deritu, that woman, was a gatekeeper at the register of political parties. The chair himself, I'm told, is related to a state house honcho. So these are systems people. And systems people do what they're expected to do. They have to preserve the system because it has made them who they are. Who they are. So you hear, oh, Makau Mutua was betrayed. Who has Makau Mutua betrayed? Makau Mutua is no more than Raila Odinga's sycophant. Do you read his opinion pieces? Do you read his tweets? Do you? So when you think, no, he's taken up a position and you think he's progressive because he twangs? You think so? You think he's progressive because he teaches in an Ivy League school in the US? You think so? He is no different from William Ruto in terms of thinking. They are the same people. He may be a professor, this one may have a PhD, you may ask questions how he got it, but they're the same people as far as Kenya is concerned. You get your position in this state, you make money, you go away. What do you care? So the stifling of KPU, Kenya People's Union, under Jaramogi and Kagia, it removed alternative political thinking in Kenya and made Kenya, reactionary conservative. And that's what we are. Njonjo, Apollo Njonjo, Nyong'o, professor, they tried to come up with an ideological political party, social democratic party at some point. They were suppressed. Nyong'o completely forgot about that politics and he became Raila Odinga's sycophant. Orengo, the one that I had, Orengo is a Raila Odinga sycophant. He's not an alternative. Please, let's get it right. He is not. These are people who should be confined to the dustbin of history in terms of thinking. If you look at them in terms of height, how do they? No, you may find it's different from Raila Odinga. But you look at him in terms of thinking, he's not any different from Raila Odinga. He's not. He realized that opposing Raila Odinga would confine him to the political wilderness. He decided to turn around and just became a systems person. You think he's governor courtesy of his competence? No, courtesy of Raila Odinga's patronage. You don't know this? You don't know? So obviously I learned, what am I saying? I'll be very ruthless in my characterization of Kenya. We're like this fictional society that Jonathan Swift talks about in his masterpiece, Gulliver's Travels. And that book satirizes medieval England. He talks about political differences in this book in terms of very weird things. People differ in terms of whether they put on high heels or low-heeled shoes. You getting me? People differ in terms of whether they break their eggs at the end or in the middle. See how bizarre it is. You must have been talking about Kenya. Those are the differences we have politically. Who breaks the egg how? Is it in the middle or at the end? Who is walking around in high heels? So what I'm saying that our differences are very petty, parochial and vain. And that's why we are unable to re-engineer this society. So we are left to say, no, we want just the least bad. The least bad, where does it take you? It doesn't take you anywhere. So unless we overcome this very medieval, retrogressive society that Swift is talking about, I'm afraid the next elections will not be any different from the past elections. And William Ruto, if push comes to shove, he will steal those elections and wants to see whether you will go to the streets to protest that elections have been stolen from Matiang'i or Rigathi or Kalonzo. You want to see that. Which Kenyan will be foolish enough to put their life on the line for such cynical characters like him? You'll want to test that. that you are on the streets protesting haki yetu, haki yangu, haki yetu, haki yangu, in protest for Matiangi, for Rigathi, for Kalonzo, for Mother Karua. Oh my goodness. It can't work. I learned, Abdi.
Thank you, Westin. Hang on there. We'll still get back to you. I'll bring in Chacha. Dr. Milton, the mic is yours for the opening statement. Thank you. And then we go back to Dr. Kimani and Anthony, and then we give the Chacha the opportunity to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abdi. Thank you, Hillary. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to be here. And I begin by saluting everybody that believes in the revolution and the fact that Kenya requires a renaissance, and that all of us have a duty to agitate and defend a Kenya that is progressive, that is socially just, and one that is governed in accordance with the aspirations of the constitution that Kenya people have enacted for themselves. Now, I want to make my opening statement, and I will design my remarks in three parts. Number one is to give my summary of what the state of the nation is, and this is a broken record in terms of how everybody has characterized what our country is like at this point in time. So, one, the state of the nation is broken. The state of the nation is awash with examples of what doesn't work for the people, by the people. The state of the nation is such that we have given the privilege and authority to lead and exercise power on our behalf to people who stand for nothing, don't believe in anything that we do as a people, and who do not subscribe in any way, form, or shape to the aspirations of the Kenyan people as they have enacted for themselves under the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And you just don't look. I mean, if you look around yourself, you would see so many examples of what we are saying. We have a head of state who lies with a straight face, speaks from both sides of his mouth, and now has the ability to engage and even sit down with people who died years ago. And that has become our signature face. It has become so transactional as a people that we have a legislature that is supposed to speak on behalf of the people, that is gatekeeping for the executive they are supposed to check. We have a people who are supposed to exercise, to represent the people, to oversight the executive, who are now singing from the choral book that has been written by the executive. And we have a people who will not care about what the people are going through, but they want to tell us that there is no difference between executive authority and legislative power or oversight authority on behalf of the people. They want to have their cake and eat it. They want to implement projects and still pretend to be oversighting and doing legislative work. You have a society where we have a people that have been blackmailed and been handed the card which they have used to look at their oppressors with the Stockholm syndrome, where they're becoming sympathetic to those who are oppressing them and thinking that it is a mistake to demand for better from these people. We have a country where the citizen is always being blackmailed to think that their problems are inherent, that their problems are because they are the problem instead of those that are in leadership, where the people are not motivated, they're not incentivized, they're not receiving services for the taxes they pay.
And we have a people that have resigned to fate, and they no longer believe in themselves just because they have been put in that constant poverty cycle. And anything they receive from those in authority exercising their power on their behalf are stealing from them, but the people cannot rise up and say anything. I think enough said. We know the problem. I do not want to go into the details of who is responsible for what problems we have as a country or what challenges we face. I would move on to the second part of my presentation and speak about then what? Because the then what question is where I think we are getting confused, we are getting lost, and this is where we are being thrown into a spin because we have given these people a lot of power and a lot of money, and they are using that to blackmail us and to confuse us not to take action. Number one, how do we then deal with these people? We must, and I have said this, we must make it impossible for these people to continue with the way of doing things. We must say enough is more than enough. How do we do that? I want us to look at our glass as half full, even though it is difficult to do so. And we can still use, even a broken clock is right twice a day. We need to look at it and tell ourselves, what glimmer of hope do we have? Number one, let us make it impossible for example, the IEBC that we are being told that is now been is going to be a matter. No, it's no longer about whether these people will be vetted and approved. It is just a question of how they are going to sing praises of these people, and they will tell us this is the best IEBC that happened. We must now substantively move on and ask, because the constitution empowers we the people to do so. We need to demand, number one, that we are not going to allow the people to continue this oppressive nature, because we are being told if you stop the electoral cycle from going on, then it means you don't want to exercise your power. We must stop doing things for the sake of it and say we are not going to do it. Everything needs to be brought to a standstill. And I've spoken about this before. We must be able to tell our people that no, we are not going to take this anymore. When the president comes up and lies, and people are supposed to be okay with it, we shouldn't be okay with that. We want to start taking action. And I keep saying this. I have said it and I'm saying it. When, for example, we wanted to put an end to the monkey business and the theft that was happening at Football Kenya Federation, we brought everything to a standstill. And we were being told, what is your interest about this? When everything was brought to a halt, and we said, until you do the right thing, we are not going to accept it, people got stranded. And I stood in court and I told the courts, look, I mean, we're not going to be blackmailed and to allow people to continue abusing their power and to continue oppressing us. And then in the meantime, nothing is going on. This sort of blackmail, make believe, and abracadabra business has to stop. So what do? Let us use the courts. The courts, we still have power. We still have a few good people in those courts. Let us swarm them with all these applications where we say, number one, for example, how did you come down to that list of 7 or is it 11 people that you're telling us are the best suitable to be appointed to the IEBC? First of all, we need full disclosure. Pursuant to Articles 33, 34, and 35 of the Constitution, we need full disclosure. What were the presentations about the character of these people that were made? That is public information. It should be known. How are these people graded? What are the minutes of this selection panel that finally came up, that narrowed down from 3,000 people to this number of people? This is information that should be in the public domain, because we have for way too long been deceived into thinking that people have good intentions, but they are not having those good intentions. They are gatekeeping for those who are oppressing us. And let us refuse. Let our people refuse to be drawn into this idea of saying, oh, June 25th happened. People wanted to bring the country down. There was a coup being designed. Come on. So what? You're self-preserving by telling us about the coups. Let us call a spade and a sin for what it is. And good people, please let us come out. Let us not even, we don't even need to go out and make a lot of noise. We can make noise here and that noise will be heard. For example, why are we being told about a Kim's kit where we are spending billions in procurement when people can vote using their phones? If people are able to transact on their phones billions of money every day, why can't we use that technology in our voting system? So, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that as I move on to the next part of my presentation, is that let us bring everything to a halt. These politicians are plotting against the people. There is nothing wrong with the people plotting against these people because the constitution and the law empowers the people to plot how they will be better governed and how their interests will best be served. We must go back to the days before June 25th when the whole country was mobilized and everything came to a halt. Let us refuse to be blackmailed. Let us be able to go back and say, we are going to deplatform you. You're not coming to address us. You're not coming to, the Subarus must be stopped. You're not coming to our funerals of our loved ones to tell us what to do. And we are not going to be sympathetic to your loss when you're not sympathetic to the loss of public lives in the name of individual citizens being killed as they agitate for their rights. That is what we need to begin to demand. And finally, as I land, good people, time is ripe. This is the moment where we say that this idea we were given, and I tweeted about this update. I said, this lie that we were given, that academic qualifications are the best credentials for leadership. We have now evidence that that does not work. We must begin to say and we must demand. Now we know that a PhD holder is not a measure of the best presidency that we can have. Now we know that CEOs from blue chip companies who have come in and lied to us that they would make the best governors, they would make the best CSs. Now we know that that doesn't work. This lie we were told that going to school and parading very good looking grades does not yield results when it comes to public service and the leadership that is in keeping with the aspirations of the Kenyan people. Aspiration is a very deliberate word the Kenyan people enacted for themselves because aspiring is looking up to great standards than ordinary. So we now must be able to tell ourselves if there is any change that we need, if there is any public participation that must happen as a matter of urgency in supersonic speed, it is not about the CDF. It has to be about how the credentials for those we elect and those we appoint into public office is as guided and defined under the Constitution. And we have Article 10 of the Constitution, we have Article 73 and 75 of the Constitution, and we have Article 232. These are the definitions of what we need from our people who are going to lead us and guide us. as a people. And if you fall short of that, we have no business dealing with you. We must be able to send you home. Don't come into office and then treat us as though we begged you to come. And now you're telling us that we need to have, you cannot review salaries downwards. Now we want to, come on. You look for a job, you take it as per the terms of the employer. The employer is the Kenyan people. Don't come and tell us that you must be paid a six-figure salary for you to serve. No, we are telling you, you take it, you take what we offer, or if you don't want it, please take a walk. It is the Kenyan people's way or the highway. That is what is going to help our country. But the most important, as I finish in conclusion, is that we must bring everything to a standstill. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. We'll cycle back to you as we go to that was who was the next speaker? Hillary, Dr. Kimani, and then Anthony, and then there is a message for Westin. Someone tells you the University of Buffalo is not an Ivy school. It is a research university and a member of State of New York University. So the professor is not in an Ivy school. Thank you for that comment, whoever it is. Over to you, Dr. Kimani.
Thank you so much, Abdi, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Greetings. I want to appreciate the opportunity. I have had quite a conversation, especially the last speaker, Dr. Milton. That's commendable. So I want to talk about the topic of today, the state of the nation and IEBC, and I will start with the state of the nation and maybe some of the elements that have been touched upon by many speakers, including Ronyo there before, and those that have spoken before. Kenya is in pains, and I think everybody knows that economically. Unfortunately, we allowed some conmen in the political arena to destroy our country, and destroyed it economically. And therefore, I believe we do not now need political solutions. Now touched on each and every element of Kenyan population, wherever they are. We are talking about our education. Everybody is crying loud. The education system, nobody understands what it is. It is not what we're supposed to do. And I ask myself, is whatever we are doing in our education system supposed to serve the needs of the people of Kenya today and into the future? We shall have a generation that is so confused and that will make a big mess than we are in today. So that's a thing that we need to do. So the education is in the platform today. That's food for thought. What is it supposed to achieve and for whom? And how sustainable is that into the future? How can we make it better? We are talking about health. You all know what is happening in the health sector. People are dying and dying because of promises that will never come to fruition. What is that we need to do? And all these things that I'm saying, because everybody has done everything possible in their positions to make sure that we do not thrive economically. So we all need to do that. And I think if today we are struggling because of our economic status, what will happen to the generations that are coming after us? We therefore have got some assignment. We all have a collective responsibility to think of how do we now therefore secure the future of the generations that are going to come after us. I have seen people, urging us that we need to come up with the National Sovereign Wealth Fund. Other countries have done so. And those countries that have done so are so well prepared to deal with circumstances and challenges that we can. But do we have the political willpower to do that? No, it's not there. Therefore, this is a clarion call that we all here must agree, and I think this is the conversion or the converted group, that there has to be a change. We cannot continue doing things the way we have done them and expecting different results. No, we must have devoted servants, not people in offices calling themselves bosses that are doing the opposite of what's supposed to be done in a country beautiful as Kenya. I could go on and on talking about the state of the nation, but we all agree it is not well. It is not well. And that one's drive me to the next agenda, that is about the IEBC. I know I might be very unfair and unpopular but let me put this one out there. You know, currently there are people who have no representation, whether it is in the county assemblies or in the national assembly as well, or maybe in the Senate, following maybe natural causes that has led to the leadership of those places going away. And therefore, it is therefore very, very important, and to be fair to all these, to the Kenyans that have got no representative for so far so good, and that have been without this for some time now, get their justice and get their at the same time. We must not accept situations because we are forced to accept the situation because of maybe timelines or whatever the constitutional confusion that this is likely to put us into. Whatever problems we need to solve, it need to be solved once and for all. We do not need to come there. We know there has been a lot of problems with IEBC because I think, listened to the James Oswago guy, and the analogy of, or the fact that the CEO of such an institution does not last long. And therefore, I ask myself, is it systemic? Is it by default? Is it meant to be that way? What is it that it is ailing us? Why can't we make this? It's a commission, supposed to be independent, supposed to be whatever, as the name says, it is independent, electoral body, whatever, or boundaries and commission, whatever it's supposed to be independent. Therefore, why is it that it is not independent? It therefore does not matter who we put into those offices. They will be interfered with, maybe replacing the I. Therefore, we must not accept things because we need to solve, or maybe if a hand is broken, you cannot go putting it a band-aid. It's not working. It has to be taken through the procedures for it. And like, for example, I'm currently in Canada. And you all know that, some of you may know that the prime minister resigned and another prime minister came in who was not a member of parliament, but because of the situations and the conduct of Canada, they had to call for a by-election. And because it's the prime minister who wanted to come into parliament so that he can have a seat, therefore had to call for a national election for everybody who was in parliament, had to go home and seek a fresh mandate. And when that one happened on 28th of April in the morning, and by evening we knew that the prime minister, who was the liberal leader, was leading. Yesterday, in a riding, or in a constituency that was taken in for a recount, the difference now contempted that the election was won, and by one vote. So can we even get close to that kind of a thing, given that in Kenya, all the things that we seem to do are always on borrowed kind of an agenda? I'm saying this because when you look at the education system, it's borrowed from somewhere, and it's a mix of some sort of a thing. You look at Brazil, where we have got about 50 million voters. They vote in the morning, and by evening, we know who is going home and who is going to lead the country. In Kenya, what's the problem with that? We don't even have 20 million people who vote per day. But this has led to what we saw last time: over 8 million people having no confidence in that institution called IEBC, and even taking the most important responsibility, their civic responsibility, to go in and vote. So what's my point here? We, the Kenyan people, have got the tools that never used to be there before, and we need to use them including platforms like this, to be able to bring the change that we seriously deserve. I will be coming later because I will be going for the governor. Yeah, I'm landing. I'm the gubernatorial position in Nyandarua County, but that does not just come easily. It therefore says, and we have to have some of the things that we need, desire, put in place today. That is, we have to put our economic agenda out there, and people must tell us what they have done, what they are going to do to make sure that we are not in this mess, and our generations to come will not have to solve these problems that we are solving today. I know each generation has got their own problem, but we must therefore fix our economy. We must fix our Kenya country, and that is the way we are going to deal with this situation. Thank you so much, Hilary. Thank you so much, Abdi. And thank you so much to everybody for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kimani. Well, thank you for your submission. Before we proceed, I want to bring in Anthony before I bring in the ladies. We want to hear the ladies' voice. Anthony has been on the mic for some time. And Anthony, I just want to bring you with a question that as you come in, we had the Court of Appeal ruling that exposes a serious constitutional breach. The bench that had Gachagwa's impeachment case was unlawfully constituted, and the Deputy Chief Justice's role in that process now has been declared unconstitutional. So that's not a small technicality, it's a fundamental failure of judicial procedure. Until a newly properly constituted bench rehears the matter, the Gregorian High Court remains binding. I really want to ask you this question. How do you ensure future impeachment proceedings are not tainted by procedural illegitimacy, especially when they involve top office? And what's your view on this as you come in also? Thank you. The mic is yours, Anthony.
Thank you very much, Abdi. Thank you, Hilary, for hosting this wonderful space. I'll go direct to your question, and it's a wonderful question. When you read the Constitution, each arm of government is given very clear instructions on what powers and privileges each president of that docket holds. So I'll start by giving you an example. When we were looking at the impeachment of the deputy president, the reason the deputy president and the president, that's called the presidency. You can't separate them. It's the presidency. So the only person who had the power to appoint the judges hearing the case was the president of the judiciary. But this is what was argued in my thinking. Since we are impeaching the deputy president, we can have the deputy of the judiciary appoint the three-bench judge, which was wrong. It was fundamentally wrong. Because when you look at the duties that the Constitution gives the Chief Justice, it is clear as day. And that is one of the most wonderful things about the Constitution that we gave ourselves in the 2010, is that it did not leave room for speculation. It was clear that the Chief Justice, these are her roles, or these are the roles for the Chief Justice, may it be male or female. And if you go back to that day, you remember there was first of all a rumor that the Chief Justice was out of the country. The Chief Justice made an appearance intentionally. She did not appear by mistake. I think she was somewhere in Mombasa or Nakuru. But because the president was hell-bent on impeaching his deputy, they asked themselves, how do we circumnavigate this? Like, how do we go around it? Because from where I sit, I think the Chief Justice refused to play ball. She was like, I'm not going to be part of this, because there's that link of Gachagua is from Meru and I'm in Meru, and her also, she understands the law very well, that this in itself was an illegality. So the government was told, if you find a way of doing it, coming up with a bench, you do it, but I'm not going to be part of it. Because I think that she's very conscious about how history will remember her. And that is how we ended up with the deputy appointing the judges, that this in itself is illegal. But even if we all know it's illegal, let's continue with the case, because Whether we continue with the case or not, you still issue a verdict. So that's why when the lawyers were prosecuting their case, they were not doing it because they did not expect the impeachment to go through. They were prosecuting the case to the public. They wanted the public to know the merits of the case, though they already knew the outcome. But to your second part of the question is, going forward, what will happen? Remember, this is the first time we've impeached the deputy president. Going forward, the deputy chief justice will never, ever again take over roles that she knows that she cannot do according to the constitution. Because I always say, if me, a lay person, can read the constitution, and that's one of the beauties of the Kenya's constitution, and that's why it's called the most progressive constitution in the world. The authors of the constitution made it so simple that you did not need to be a lawyer. You did not need to go to law school to understand it. This will never happen again. But for me, the biggest question is, is Kenya in a state that everything the deputy president is doing currently is illegal? Like, will it hold ground? You know, someone can come and say the deputy president has chaired a cabinet meeting or has chaired the IEBC, because the deputy president is also in charge of chairing the IEBC where all governors sit. Someone can come and say all the resolutions of any meeting, any resolution passed by the deputy president is null and void. But what does this do to the Rigathi Gachagua? Rigathi Gachagua, for people who have studied his politics, he is not a fool. And you remember, even when he used to be deputy, he used to say, I might look like a fool, but I'm definitely not one. Rigathi Gachagua does not react. He listens, he calculates, then he talks. And that is the reason you've seen him consolidate. In the history of this country, no one has consolidated a region that quickly. It has never happened. It took Ruto then it took him another from 2002 up to now, when they did the Nini with Uhuru, to almost have this thing that I can bring Rift Valley to you as a block. Rigathi is not interested in winning. He only needs to control 47% of this country's vote block, which is the Kikuyu vote, or let me call it the largely Gema vote, which is what Raila Odinga did with the Luo Nyanza vote. So Rigathi is saying, even if Ruto wins, he will not govern without me. Whoever wins going forward, whether you've impeached me or not, you will never govern this country. That the impeachment was illegal and Rigathi can run, and he becomes president, then we will see how he governs. But let me talk about the IEBC you are talking about. There's a statement he made
Anthony.
Before
you switch on gears, so let me just take you back to the constitutional and the court ruling. Now, given the legal uncertainty and the institutional confusion you talked about surrounding the deputy president's office, what is is there a constitutional or a political cure? Should Parliament intervene? Should the judiciary fast track a fresh hearing? Or is this a moment that demands a broader constitutional reform to insulate high office from political manipulation and judicial capture? What's your thought?
I think you've summarized it very well. The last part is actually what should be happening. that we've seen an illegality and we really need to relook the constitution and say, why are we allowing this to happen? So unless now a Kenyan citizen, any Kenyan citizen comes out and says, if this is what the High Court has said, then Kindiki Kithure is not my deputy president. But you see, when we do not agitate, status quo remains. So because no Kenyan is reacting, including the impeached deputy president, and people should be asking themselves, why isn't he making any noise about it? Why isn't he saying, I'm the aggrieved one, I need to be the deputy president? You know, that is the question everyone is asking. Why is he comfortable sitting and observing? Because clearly the constitution was breached, not breached, it was torn apart. Because look at it, when the deputy president was in parliament, you know, there's a time the speaker allows someone else to sit in his seat. But when the deputy president is there, because of the sheer power, the Chief Justice, and that's where Philomena Mwilu came in. I don't want to talk about Philomena or this was wrong, but if any of you has the constitution, go and read it. The duties and to any case in regards to the it is clear. And it is also clear when you read the duties of the Deputy Chief Justice, those roles are not mentioned there. So I don't know how we ended up there. I don't know why the judges who sat in that case decided to sit and hear it in the first place. When I wanted to talk about the IEBC, I don't.
Finish your submission. We go to the next speaker, and then we'll start.
So when you come to the IEBC, when people look at the IEBC, and I'll come back and to beat Raila with 200,000 votes. If you go to the leader, the person who was heading Raila Odinga's ODM's campaign, this Masai guy, he said, look at the of a political party. He's the one who appends his signature to the results at the polling station, because that's the ultimate. So don't worry so much about the commissioners, because country, because after what happens at the polling station, they submit or they transmit the agreed results to forms, and we all count the votes. Each of those returning officers for each candidate agree that yes, I was here, we've verified the results, and these are the actual results. And because we are going to have new constituencies coming in. Some constituencies will be divided into two. So these new constituencies coming in will determine a lot. Another thing we need to look at as I finish, Abdi, is we are going to go next year, not this year. I don't think this year we are going to have any elections. Whether he will win the next elections or he will lose. Remember, during the last elections, William Ruto won. To vote. Remember, the Gen Zs have a very unique mind. They believe and they are very strong in what they believe, and it takes a lot to sway them. So that will be my submission on this. I think the state of the nation right now, we are in a very expectant mood because all of them to go through, because the president controls all houses, both the Senate and Parliament. So if those are the commissioners he wants, those are the commissioners he'll get. Going forward, we need to organize ourselves not for anything, but to vote. Because if we don't organize ourselves, he was in Nyandarua. We need to ask ourselves, where is deputy president now in Mount Kenya? Why is Farouk Kibet has been assigned to cover Western Kenya in every TV station talking about the Gen Zs? What are we doing, we ourselves? Now, tusipojipanga tutapangwa. To me, that will be my submission.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do not know what is going on. They It's like they're waiting for that change to come soon, but at the same time they're like, oh, yourself, what do you want? What exactly would you want to vote for? Who do you want to vote for? Why would you want to vote for? They do not have confidence in integrity of the 2027 general election. So you see already these are people who, when you go on the ground, in the same time I went to the millennials, they will not vote. This already is your, it is your, it is your mandate to vote. That opportunity of voting look normal, I will not go and vote. You have to go and vote. That is your your mandate, your civic duty. So that pessimism whereby this youth, ndio maana hawataki kutusikiza. I'm a millennial, and I feel like sometimes I'm also tired by the people who I'm speaking to when they all think about the same way. Had that opportunity of living a when we think about being told to get out of it, we do not accept. And that is the reason as to why na hiyo information mnakuja mnaangusha wale wengine. So guys, be aware that change is here, change imekuja, ni nyinyi ndio mnakataa, wewe mwenyewe ndio unakataa. So kama unakataa shauri yako, mimi nasema, and I'm telling you this, the change will come, and those people who believe in it, they will make it because they never accepted to be put down by other people. Entrepreneurs, they have many, and they even have coaches so that they do not believe that the whole plan so easily. and sell it, sell the enterprise just to make a little bit of something and pay the other people, but they invest into somebody who is going to motivate them in information and surround. Zenyu zikuwe zina make sure they live their happy, and it is supposed to be the other way around. Start believing that you are the one who is supposed to be living in a better. I'm sorry, I had to say that because it was too much for me. It was really too much. I held a space and it was very, very sad. Unajua kuna mahali nafikaga mpaka unaangalia hivi unajiuliza yenyewe, what can I do? Cannot do it just political. I think psychologically sometimes it is really demeaning, and we need some people who are going to talk to people in another language that they have never heard. That is my humble opinion.
We wish you a happy Mother's Day. Tom, I mean, I'm gonna just give me a 1 minute. Just to say that, Hannah, you've made my mother organize, but they did it. So thank you, Hannah. Before I speak, what I had prepared for the day is that, yes, these politicians, you've read their stories. You know where they've been for the last 40 years. That do make my presentation, which I had prepared, because there are too many moving parts and it's overwhelming. Our political histories, but they fail to acknowledge that from June 25th, Kenya will never be the same again. That Kenyans, the youthful Kenyans converged. And you're right. We are in a space where we are saying they are mightier, they are stronger, and you know, the memory of the young people is population. That you've seen that are we heartless or population? About these moving parts and I look forward to a more positive conversation.
Somehow left it go on without her, that is a fallacy. She knew everything. And she substantively swore the current deputy president into office. So she's part of this game. So trying to imagine that somehow we don't have a deputy president and Rigathi Gachagua remains the deputy president, that is being too imaginative for nothing. Number two, 2027 people will go to. I look forward to a more positive conversation. Worst of all, because people are angry. And we are not going to have anybody drop. In 2027, who is so convincing to all of us that we shall rally behind him and speak. So we need to tone down. We are likely to make a choice in 2027 with purely problems orchestrated by Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And people and the same thing, we shall have someone who will convince us, just like Rigathi is doing, telling us that he's the savior now, and these other political players. And maybe we shall trust them for some reason. So I don't know. I don't see anybody that is going bit by bit. But I am very hopeful, and whoever that will be, he said that IEBC is a letdown. And somehow I have, can you show me an example where there is a disparity between what you have from the polling station and what is on the public portal? Nobody was able to come out with a paper and tell us that this is a discrepancy I see here, and therefore this election was flawed. We've come along our electoral system and that of the US, for example. Donald Trump does not believe that. He is going back to paper ballots. That is what he believes in, that people must go to the to the polling station, cast their votes, and that vote should be counted from the polling station. I mean, there is nowhere in the world where the voting system is 100% clean. Of all the candidates that were interviewed, IEBC candidates, I have an issue with candidate A because how he was answering the questions, his credentials, I don't feel like he can make the fit to become chair or to become a commissioner. Whose people, what is your control opinion to what? In their past experiences, what is your divergent opinion? Can you put it on the table? Not just waking up and saying, you know, I don't like them just because they. Thank you, Redemptor.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's go to who was
as Africans, having seen those of you, good friends, who poured onto the streets to, to ask for a better country. We were all glued onto our television station. I would love to say to you, thank you very much, all the Kenyans who have always been working very hard to see a beautiful Kenya and to be role models to many of us in Africa. Before these things happened in Kenya, most of us Africans were unaware of what sort of a president Mr. in Zimbabwe. We have now grown to understand the type of president that is President Ruto. We are deeply disappointed to see him impossible for the will of the people to be respected in our country. And therefore, when we saw President Ruto of Kenya being in the company of this individual, not once, not twice, not thrice, but several times, we started to realize what sort of an individual the president who is there in Kenya is. Somebody that I believe the majority of Kenyans now believe is an obstacle to progress. Must be condemned, and people in Kenya must be aware that this man represents very little when it comes to ethics. He was given an opportunity in our country to develop a 100 megawatt solar power, and he squandered all the money, and there was absolutely nothing that he offered. Today in our country, despite him claiming to be a billionaire for where they are, he simply has got money, dishing out money everywhere he goes and giving people money. It is regrettable that we have such individuals, going across borders into Kenya to perpetrated by such individuals and with where the president of Kenya is involved. We hope that the president, if he is going strong, our continent becomes progressive, our continent is truly independent and prosperous, because we do have the minerals and we can be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Orders, because the struggle for accountable governance, electoral integrity, constitutionalism we move from resistance to transformation. Thank you again, Hulu. Let's continue this conversation. Now I will bring. We're on the top of the hour. Let me bring in Professor Sayansi. Is it Siasa something? And then we go to Sheila. Thank you.
Hello. All mothers on this platform. I have this to share just to address the state of the nation and IEBC. I'm glad that the three previous speakers, that is Hannah, flesh on my points. The state of Kenya, we started at a point of information. We realized that the government of the day is taking a wrong direction, and we decided to speak sure that Kenyans understand the issues, especially the finance bill. So we shared information on a particular issue, and we got a result. It started by saying finance bill must be rejected. It was rejected successfully. Secondly, we came to realize that indeed Ruto is a worst leader for the country. There were 14 points that were shared as to reasons as to why Ruto must go. And told the people that I concede defeat. Therefore, you have won. The next point was Ruto must go. And we have solved that issue until everywhere I go, you ask people, who do you think we should vote as the next president? Some people just tell you, of course, I will not know who they are going to vote. So we also won on Ruto must go. What I think, the world is continuing and Kenya is not getting people on platforms like this. But where are we really headed to? I think a time came that we had to start organizing. On this platform, who made sure that Kenyans are informed so that we win on reject finance bill, we win on making Kenyans believe that Ruto must go. a sellout, and many kinds of adjectives that we give them. Also, I believe that as we must go, why can't we agree? Drain the swamp is possible. And the bad. I believe that where we stand right now and what we should focus on as Kenyans is it that we can't come on this platform and tell each of us, me as Redemptor, I think this is the person that can transform this country. We are at a level whereby so that we make decisions based on our feelings, based on this. Do you think this person is better and this person is not better? After we are done with that, we can agree to work out and speak to Kenyans on the ground and embrace these new voices, these youthful people that are coming on board to at least help change the direction we transform this country. So that is generally where I'm ending, and I hope going forward, I hope going forward we can start having a conversation on who is going to be the next president of
Okay, hello, Sam. Thank you.
Hila, we lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
I was extending my appreciation to our fellow Africans that are supporting the movement in Kenya. I'd like to say, first of all, everyone who's saying Sijui Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, it's no longer any generation. of the Kenyans. So all of us are suffering. And I want to guarantee every Kenyan that's on this
Professor dropped probably. I just bring him back. Meanwhile, let's give. I see one speaker that.
That have been made earlier, but I want to dismiss some two notions, not in a bad way. One, the table, and that was the worst mistake that we ever did. Why do I advise or urge our decisions to actually elect that government into office out of emotions? The thief inside that regime, just as the way we are regrouping. I do agree with many that Justice Ruto is not an option. I also don't think Wamunyoro is in any way with that maybe a neutral or a new candidate on the table. And in many dimensions, I would say no. But we would actually be able to control a government when we are actually able to form the basis of that government when it comes to the not run away from the reality that the elite power theory usually forms the basis of our politics as Africans. And therefore, when money will be put on the mobilize our troops, mobilize each and every young person, and all inclusive citizens or people with a straightforward agenda for this country. The same happens to the National Assembly, and by that we are going to form the basis of a but becomes number one in everything, just as Wamunyoro says, and we liberate this country from the hands of the dogs and
is a spark of a ballot revolution. I think when citizens get angry, as you said, and organized, no force can stop them. The pain is real anyway. I agree. The betrayal. And then Sheila, we are coming to you. Thank you. Abdurrashid. Okay, I think Abdurrashid is not there. Sheila, go ahead. I see your hand. Closing remarks. So I'll bring Dr. Milton. Dr. Milton, the mic is yours, and then we go to Anthony. Or Anthony, you can start, and then we go to Dr. Milton. Thank you.
Thank collaborations. And I'll urge all young people in this country, millennials, Gen Zs, the Gen Zote movement. It is a high time we start seeking collaborations. There are very many young people in this country, and they are spread across in are on the table when the next government is being formed. Then we shall have done a great service for us millennials to our children. For the Gen Zs, they will have done a great service for their future, because they are the ones coming out of colleges, and they are the people good service of saying, for once we delivered a country that is governed on ideology. It is not going to be an overnight success, but is that we need now to include the common average citizen. And this is what the Gen Z has Redemptor said. This is the moment the Gen Z burst this country. But where I and if we don't want collaboration, how do we form a political party that espouses our beliefs and our ideology? Because whether we want it or not, 2027, we shall go to the ballot. Whether we want it or not, political parties grievances that we have. That is where we need to put our effort. That is where we need to put our energy, and that is where we need to make our let us seek collaborations and let us move forward. And I've always come to spaces, and I've always wanted to be very honest. I have not met regarding 25th must count for something. And that is the path I chose, and that is the path I've been consistent with. I know some people might not agree with me, but I choose consistency.
Closing remarks. I want to say three things. Number one, I think a question was asked about what happened at the Supreme Court when people were challenged to demonstrate how for your information, that portal is not accessible anymore, which is a violation of the rule of law. And as somebody who was involved in following the elections, the results, and even to the Supreme Court, I want to tell you that what we had at the Supreme Court was to say the least, a charade, and there was no willingness from those details. I want to say the next thing is that I think going forward we need to dissociate and we need to delink, and that is my second point. Individuals whoever, we would be able to say that this is the character that the Constitution expects us to elect, and therefore the eligibility is not based defeat. We look at it from that perspective, so that whether it is Maraga, whether it is Matiangi, constitutionality of what has happened with Rigiji and the decision that has come from the Court of Appeal. Good people, we have to mobilize ourselves against these people because we know what they represent and we know what we don't want. If we are able to do that, and when we do it faithfully and with the fidelity to the Constitution, we will not struggle to come up with the right candidates. We will not struggle wheat and chaff, and then now we are struggling to say, okay, let us choose who do not represent, who do not fit with the constitutional edict. Chance will be left to right against right, as opposed to having to choose between what is good and what is not good, or what is good and what is good and because he does not fit the bill, not to consider. I think that is what we have to continue doing. And Hillary and Abdi, I want to say this: if we could try and engage outside of these spaces for the 6 days that we are not on the spaces, we would be able to have a greater impact. I know we stand accused because we have said things that we have not followed through. Can we try? Could we make an effort to try and make one in the space? I think our impact would be felt. And I have to salute everybody that we have remained the most consistent space. Some that have come with short term objectives have fallen by the wayside. But we need to make our space count, and we want to send a strong message to those people who are listening. And in my closing remarks, but I want to be very, very deliberate in being abstract at this point. Where we will get it unmasked is when we get to the details. Huu mkia hautatushinda tunaenda naye, ni nani tutamhusisha, na njia yetu itakuwa ni ipi? Tutatumia gari gani? Tutatumia ndege? Tutatumia meli? Tutatembea kwa mguu? Hayo ndiyo maswala ambayo ningependa sasa tuanze kufikiria, tuanze kuyawazia, and the world. Mbarikiwe nyote, shukran zangu za dhati.
Thank you, Dr. Milton. Redemptor, your closing remarks, please. Thank you.
Hey, I really do appreciate your consistency, but just like you, every Wednesday, without fail, even if it's two people, I keep the conversations going. When these conversations began, I used to introduce mtetezi, mwandishi na mzazi. And allow me just for a minute, because talk about emotions as if it is a bad word. How you came into this world is science, biology. But why is because of emotions. Your mother and your father emotions were people kept coming here and starting to argue about, don't mention Gen Z, there's also this. No, Gen Zote belongs to this person. I think we must acknowledge that when a phrase becomes popular like Gen Z, I don't think the intention is to they are feeling from being in power. And I would say, as a nation, where we have failed is because of a phrase I heard from a young person. He had gone to church, and this young man said, well, it was about show off. And what the pastor said is, I am bowling and you're not. And if you don't understand the sheng, I am rich, I am filthy rich, and you're not. But my very existence is because you vote. That we felt post pre-June 25th. Right now it is greater because of emotions. Because we can run away from the pain. Those of you who have empathy, the pain that you feel, people. And that, I have to remind you on this Women's Day, will be the undoing of a regime, because they continue to assume everywhere you go. If you talk to a mother, they tell you the pain is unbearable. We can talk shop, talk big words about bills and let's do this, let's collaborate, but we must stop and very valid points. I will approach presidential candidates and I will bring them to my show on Wednesday, which is a chilled space. They will be patient there, and the whole purpose of that nation, when you hear the voice of the person who is supposed, you will know what their intentions are. And that's why there's a lot of helter-skelter. And to the young people, my last submission is this: there's been a lot of fightings selected you to be the Gen Z. So as we get close to June 25th, there's a lot of fear because the ruling class have assumed we forgot and we moved on. And the young people of this nation have a greater responsibility because they will outlive our foolishness. For when we fight about things like phrases, oh, it's not just them, it was us. Kenya, like 124 says deserves better, and we leave this evening the resilience of the human spirit, the resilience and determination of a Kenyan spirit keeps us going. So for all those who are doing great things to make this country a better place, we applaud you. I'm a very, very so our Chief Justice is a woman, our Auditor General woman, Budget Controller woman, Attorney General woman. You are mothers, and I hope you will deliver to this country. The women, but a nation is in the pulse of what the women feel. And on behalf of mothers of this nation, our young people are suffering. It's time to give them a break and give the odds are stacked up against them. But at the end of the day, we pay tributes to all the young people, the old people, the children who continue to be brutalized when people are juggling and fighting for power. Power belongs to God. Asanteni.
Thank you, Redemptor. Thank you again for your submission. I think thank you all for staying with us through this urgent and unfiltered dialogue. What we have had today is not just frustration. Hoarded, institutions are captured, citizens are treated as bystanders in their own democracy. But we are not the bystanders, we are the witness, we are the participant, and most importantly, we are the resistance. The Constitution is not a suggestion. It dies in silence, in apathy, in the comfort of waiting for someone else to act for you. To everyone who joined us tonight from Kenya to Zimbabwe and across the continent, the diaspora, thank you. Your voice reminds us that your struggles are tonight. I challenge all of you not to just to react, but to organize, to educate, to mobilize, because the power, confirmation from the Wamunyoro team for the next weekend to speak to Kenyans. Thank you again.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody, every mother, every guy, every lady, and we really appreciate you, and we face as a democracy country. However, I want to say that thank you so much for joining, and let us continue with this dialogue. Let us continue through this journey as we and let us focus as we bring change to our country. What are you doing? What am I doing? Let us keep it alive all the time. Pressure point is always you. A wonderful night, a wonderful morning, a wonderful